The police have not been able to recruit new members due to the COVID-19 pandemic. This is of little comfort to South Africans who've seen an increase in crime. There's been a 60% rise in contact crime since last year. But Police Minister Bheki says these numbers are skewed due to the lockdown. Let's get some reaction from Popcru's Richard Mamabolo. Mr. Mamabolo, thank you very much for your time Saturday morning. So let's start off with those skewed numbers. We're comparing crime stats this year during a period when we were in relatively eased lockdown circumstances to last year when we were in a very hard lockdown. Those figures thus reflecting very high jumps, up to 60%, 74% increases in some cases of particular crimes. What do you think we should be doing when we compare these figures to get an accurate reflection on police enforcement and the work they've done so far?
Yeah, indeed, I think you're correct in mentioning that. I think part of the difference really is the fact that last year at the same time, around this same period, you had we coincided with level 5 lockdown. So there were certain crimes, of course, which were very low. But when you consider gender-based violence, it was quite high because that obviously indicated that a lot of people were behind closed doors under confined environments. So the levels of gender-based violence did increase. But however, with other criminal activities, they did go down. The difference compared to the last year and this year, of course, is also due to the fact that we must take into consideration the events around, the events that took place within this current period. You remember that we recently had acts of violence and looting that took place mainly in KZN and Gauteng. So those, of course, have had a huge impact in the crime rates, of course, currently. But we agree with the SAPS that you cannot then base the outcomes of this current statistics on the basis of what happened between last year and this year. We think the better measure would be to determine whether there had been increases or decreases over a period of at least 5 years. And what we have seen over the past 5 years is that as much as the statistics have shown increases and decreases in most cases, the general overview is that we are on an increasing trend with relations to crime rates. So it's quite important that we look into what the purposes of actually having crime statistics. And I think one of the key factors is that they are supposed to provide sufficient knowledge for police to actually act on their budgeting, their planning, ensuring that there's sufficient allocation of resources towards ensuring that we prevent whatever increases that do take place within a specified timing period. So that has
Mr. Mamabolo, I'm going to jump in there. I'm very glad you've mentioned resources and budgets because that is one of my next questions. I think we've seen a period where a number of police SAPS members have unfortunately passed away due to COVID. We've also seen decreased deployments due to positive cases amongst police ranks. As we said in our introduction, you were also unable to recruit new members. Certain members have reached retirement age. That has significantly reduced the number of police on the streets able to police and keep South Africans safe. But the big question there is, why were members not replaced, either members who were ill or who had passed away or who had retired? South Africans have at the very minimum a basic right to demand adequate, sufficient police deployment, especially in a time of crisis, might I add.
Most definitely. I think when you consider what has been happening over the past 3 years, you realize that the staff complement of the SAPS has been on a decline. Mainly, of course, there are resignations, there are retirements, and of course, there are those who had been removed from the system. They have been fired, basically. So the fact that there are budget cuts as well means that we will have such future challenges where in police, the number of the police establishment is on a decline. However, there are current measures that are currently under the bargaining council, wherein we're trying to get at least 3,000 members in the current financial year, which will obviously bolster the capacity of the SAPS. So it is quite a worrying concern that you're raising. Of course, there have obviously as well been the issues around the uneven allocation of resources, which have destabilized policing. We've got over 35,000 infections currently. We've had over 35,000 infections since the COVID-19 pandemic started, and there have been loss of lives which amount to 821 thus far. That has also as well impacted on the capacity of policing. But beyond those, I think the main challenge that has been faced by the police has been the budget cuts, because despite whatever programs that the SAPS might come with and whatever commitments that have been made consecutively, the fact that the SAPS's budget has been cut by 11.2 billion just this financial year alone means that there will not be sufficient resources in dealing with some of these challenges that we're currently facing.
We're going to have to, unfortunately, leave it there. Richard Mamabolo, spokesperson for Popcru, speaking to us there. Budget cuts very little comfort to families of those who have lost someone due to crime, to victims of rape, to victims of assault. Country, definitely something the government will have to address.